You are listening to Explained, where I give you the lowdown on root causes and factors that have disrupted your health and what you can do about it. Today, we're answering a question that I get often, and this particular one is from Claudia, and she asks, why do I keep getting leaky gut issues when I've done so much to work on my gut? And this is a really important question to ask, and we want to make sure that we always go all the way upstream to root causes. So today we'll be unpacking just one of those root causes, and it's a doozy. It's glyphosate, and that is the active ingredient in Monsanto's product Roundup, which is an herbicide. So this thing is all over the globe at this point. We use 4.5 billion pounds of it annually worldwide, and it's intense. It has wide-ranging health impacts, not the least of which is causing leaky gut issues. And I have to give a shout out to an amazing woman, because whenever we're talking about glyphosate, we're usually referencing Dr. Stephanie Seneff's work from MIT. She's published over 80 papers on it. She's an amazing human being. She's now written a book on it. And she's the one who discovered how aluminum and glyphosate collaborate to cause anxiety, depression, autism, Alzheimer's, and celiac disease, and so much more. So let's dig into what glyphosate is patented for, and then we'll kind of go forward from there. Glyphosate was actually patented first as a chelating agent. Now, what does that mean? It means that glyphosate, they noticed early on, this is back in the 60s, that they could strip pipes of mineral buildup. A chelator is anything that mobilizes metals and gets them moving out of storage and breaks their bonds that they'd been holding on to. So they thought, great, this will help us strip pipes from blockages, buildup, all that stuff. And then they noticed, oh, this is killing all the algae and stuff downstream in the water. It's probably going to make a really good herbicide. So they patented for that as well. And then in 2010, they also patented glyphosate as an antibiotic, which is pretty telling. And it's really important to understand this because 80% of our immune system's work is actually done in the gut lining, which is only one cell thick. And when it's disrupted, you can get brain fog, distress, allergies, digestion distress, autoimmune issues, and so much more. And while glyphosate does disrupt the tight junctions, which is the connections between cells, and that's the official definition of leaky gut, it does this on contact. It also disrupts the less understood gap junctions. And that's actually where the cells are talking to each other at the light level. So we talk through hormones throughout our body. That's considered the slow nervous system, like at the biochemical level. Then we use the nervous system for electrical signals to pass messages throughout the body. And we also talk at the light level. We literally are beings of light. And glyphosate can actually turn those lights out within 15 minutes of contact with the cells. So our cells use these amazing apertures. They're almost like camera apertures where they open and they send a light signal to each other and then they get caught by the next one. Oh, thanks so much for that info. Here's some info back. Yay. And within 15 minutes of exposure, those lights go out and cells also start displaying cancer morphogenic properties, which means that they literally forget who they are and what they're supposed to do. So they also lose their ability to say, hi, I need help. I've been damaged. I need to be replaced or repaired. So it has cascade effects. So essentially, glyphosate has helped us to become leaky sieves. And it's not just about our gut lining. This is also happening in our blood vessels, our kidney tubules, and worst of all, the blood-brain barrier. So the blood-brain barrier has the same exact design as the gut lining in the sense that it has very exquisite rules about what's allowed to get in and out at any given time. And all that is thrown out the window when it's disrupted with exposure to glyphosate. So I just want to start making those connections because it is about digestive health, but it is about so much more than that, including our neuroinflammatory and neurodegenerative conditions that we're seeing on a serious rise. And I'll post a graph in the show notes so that you guys can see how those conditions have actually risen in lockstep with our increase in exposure to glyphosate and use of it worldwide. So is glyphosate really a big deal for you? That's the question, right? Because if you're not a landscaper or groundskeeper like the guy who won that amazing case in San Francisco against Monsanto for his exposure to glyphosate that caused his lymphoma, how big of a deal is it for you? Well, unfortunately, it's actually in 75% of our air samples now across the United States. And it's also in 75% of our water samples. And this is a big deal because remember, glyphosate is an antibiotic. And we always want to approach antibiotics with deliberation and care and really ask ourselves, is this a good thing to do right now and be working in close relationship with our doctors to say like, okay, are antibiotics actually necessary at this time? And instead, we're getting this microdose of them all day long. Most of us are. And with one course of antibiotics, you actually have a 25% increase in likelihood of major depression in the following 12 months and a 19% increase in anxiety attacks and mood disorders. And now with 2 courses of antibiotics in a year, you actually get a 60% increase in the likelihood of major depression. So you can see how quickly this adds up. And I just want you to understand that because glyphosate is water soluble and it's entered the hydration cycle, it's now like anytime you or your kids are standing on a field and it's been irrigated with water recently and you're having the mist rise up, whatever it's been sprayed with recently with glyphosate is now rising with that mist, right? This is why we see golfers having so many neurological issues lately because they spend so much time on heavily sprayed courses. It's really sad. We get a lot of them in our practice. And it's also worth noting that this is still a rapidly developing situation and scientists are just starting to understand this. So like one study from January 2020 finally showed that herbicides, pesticides, and PERBs robbed U.S. children from over 162 million IQ points between 2002 and 2016. And glyphosate was just one of the factors in there. So it's a big deal. And I want you to consider for a second if glyphosate is in your Starbucks beverages, it's in your bottled water, it's in foods that you eat. Even organic produce is found to have up to 60 to 70% of conventionally grown crops that use glyphosate because there's so much crop drift and because it's in the hydration cycle now. We really need to understand how are we going to protect ourselves from this, right? And of course, we want to avoid it as much as possible. That's thing number one, right? We want to eat organic produce because yes, it's not perfect, but at least it's less exposure. We want to take back our control over our own yards and start growing our own food as much as possible, right? Because even a little bit of this can make a big difference. And we want to work with local farmers to be talking to them about how important this is to us and how we're willing to take steps to help partner with them and make sure that we're buying their produce. Because a lot of farmers are aware that this is an issue. They're seeing the health issues crop up in their kids and in their families, and they want to go back to organic or at least peel back some of the most pernicious conventional farming techniques. But they need to know that the market is there to support them in doing that. So what else can you do? Well, use water filters. Like distilled water is still our favorite for cooking and drinking because we know that this does effectively filter out glyphosate. We really encourage you to have just like a daily dose of apple cider vinegar because there are acidic compounds in apple cider vinegar that help break down glyphosate into harmless components that your body can actually deal with. So that's amazing. And you can start with just a few drops a day in your water or hide it in your salad dressing or smoothies or, wherever you can get it in, right? And work your way up to as much as a teaspoon or even 2 teaspoons a day. So that's going to help take care of the continual glyphosate exposure that you have coming in the body. And it's also worth noting that many of you, I know, have a lot of complex digestive issues since that's the focus of our practice. And it's not appropriate for you to be ingesting fermented foods like apple cider vinegar at this time. Don't worry, there's a way to do this with supplementation. And it actually is even more important because glyphosate gets so deep into our tissues. Now, the focus of this episode, of course, is to answer this question about why do we have leaky gut and why does it keep coming back? And yes, glyphosate is that daily exposure at the microdose level that unfortunately we can't get away from that keeps reopening the wound, so to speak. But also glyphosate is getting so deep into the tissues, it's deep in our joints now, and it's affecting our joint elasticity. And it's also contributing to non-contact injuries for all age ranges, really. So that includes like soccer kids, like 5 to 9, like that's the lowest age range that we have noticed a huge spike in non-contact injuries, which just means I was running. I didn't, run into another human being. I just was acting in my sport and I suddenly got an injury. I tore something or hurt myself, even though there wasn't an accident. So I want you to understand that because we have to, yes, protect ourselves from the ongoing exposure every day, but we also want to be able to use something that goes deep into the tissues to pull out glyphosate and also replace it with what glyphosate is pretending to be in our bodies, which is the protein glycine. That's how glyphosate can get so deep into the tissues because it looks to our body like the protein glycine. So we want to resupplement with glycine. I'll link to the one that we trust in the show notes. And we also want to use a binder like HMET is our favorite one to get, mop up the gut and heal the gut from glyphosate exposure, but also to get deep into the tissues throughout the body and over time, clean up this scary toxin, because we do not have to live this way. It is fixable. It's totally figure outable. The last thing I want you guys to do when we're talking about a root cause toxin like glyphosate that's so pervasive is for you to get overwhelmed and go into despair, because what we need right now are smart people that want to take care of themselves, that are ready to feel better, and they're motivated to do something about it. That's how we're going to get through this urgent time. So those are some great strategies to get started. I'd love to hear what else you do to protect yourselves from glyphosate. And please share this with all of your loved ones. Till next time. Thanks for listening. Go to detoxrejuvenation.com to find the links in the show notes to everything we covered in this episode. Please subscribe, review, and share with other humans who need this precious information. Let's help each other. Until next time, love, Sinclair.